Good morning. The time is 10 o'clock. I call the October 12th, 2023 Planning Board meeting. We have the following board members with us. We have Vice Chair Bailey, Commissioners Washington.
Morning.
Morning.
Geraldo. And I am Chair Shapiro. Please note that the deadline for all participant pre-registration for all submission of materials and exhibits was 12 noon on the Tuesday before this planning board meeting. And registered speakers may join the meeting with a link provided in the email provided by the planning board office or listen by phone by utilizing the call-in number provided in the email. And of course, as always, anyone can tune in to watch the planning board meeting via live stream. If you wish to speak or become a person of record, you may use our online web form, which you'll see referenced on the screen. In addition to the commissioners, we are joined by our Associate General Counsel, Laura Tellerico. We have Jessica Jones, our Planning Board Administrator, James Parsons, our Senior Technical Hearing Writer. I believe we have Derek Berlage, our Deputy Planning Director, James Hunt, the Division Chief for the Development Review Division, is with us as well, and staff members Kenneth Flanagan and Ryan Croner helping us with technology behind the scenes, as always. Relatively short agenda today. We'll start with item 2. I would look for a motion to approve the draft minutes of October 5, 2023.
Motion to approve draft minutes. Second.
Got a motion by, who made the motion?
I'll give it to my Madam Vice Chair. I'll take a second.
All right, there we go. Madam Vice Chair made the motion. Commissioner Washington made the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Geraldo.
You're muted.
There we go.
I vote aye. And
Commissioner.
I vote aye.
Thank you. The ayes have it. We had, I think the next item on our agenda, we had another item on our agenda, item 3C, that's been removed from the agenda. So we're going to go straight to our regular agenda items. And the first item, I believe the first and only item, is item 5. This is conceptual site plan CSP 18007-01, Hope Village, Phase 2. We have Mr. Tedesco, who will be representing the applicant. And we have Mr. Huang, who will be giving a staff presentation. I believe we have folks who signed up to speak on this as well. This is an evidentiary hearing. So those who are intending to provide testimony will need to take an oath. So we may have some folks in the applicant's team, and we have Ms. Allen as well. So if those who are planning on testifying, if you could please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, consider yourself sworn in. Thank you all. So let's turn to staff for the staff presentation. Mr. Huang, the floor is yours. After that, we'll hear from the applicant's representative.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the Planning Board. For the record, my name is Emery Huang with the Urban Design Sections. The item before you is item number 5, Conceptual Site Plan CSP-18007-01 for Hope Village Phase 2. This concept site plan requests an amendment to CSP-18007 for development of 250 to 270 single-family attached dwelling units in Phase 2. As a matter of housekeeping, the applicant has provided a revised conditions, a memorandum titled Applicant's Exhibit 1 prior to the October 10th noon deadline. Staff is in agreement with applicant's proposed changes to the conditions as shown in the supplemental documentations. In addition, 3 emails were received from community members in opposition to this application. One was received on September 26th of this year, and the information was included in the technical staff report. 2 were received on October 9th and 10th, and are titled Opposition Exhibit 1 and 2 respectively. Next slide, please. This slide shows in red is located in the sign is showing in the red is located in planning area 828 and the council district 9. Next slide, please. More specifically, the 37.47 acre subject size outlined in red is located in the southeast quadrant of intersection MD 223 and Marlboro Pike. Next slide, please. This image shows the subject size outlined in red is located in residential multifamily 40A or RMF-40A zones as highlighted in orange colors. The adjoining property to north beyond Marlboro Pike is a vacant property in the local activity center zone. To the east and south of the subject property are residential properties in the residential agricultural zones. To the west of the subject property beyond MD 223 is a Norburn townhouse development in the townhouse zones. This conceptual site plan, however, is reviewed in accordance with the prior zoning ordinance under which this site is within the mixed-use transportation-oriented zone, as shown in the image to the right in purple colors. Next slide, please. This slide shows the subject property outlined in red is located within the military installation overlay zone under both the prior and the current zoning ordinance. Next slide, please. The aerial photo shows the sites outlined in red is current, vacant, or farmland. The property is bound to the north by Marlboro Pike, to the west by MD 223, with single-family detached and attached residential units beyond, to the east and south by vacant or farmlands. Next slide, please. This map with the sign showing in the purple demonstrates the location of environmental features and showing the slope of the sites evenly away from the Marlboro Pike. Next slide, please. This map showing the adjacent master planned right-of-way MD 223, showing in red, is classified as artillery. A proposed master planned collector road C605, highlighted in green, will bisect the property from east to west and at the southern end of the property. Next slide, please. This slide showing the close look of the subject property, which is 37.40 acres and currently is vacant or farmlands. Next slide, please. So the slide in front of you showing the concept site plan include two phases of development. Phase 1, located in the parcel 1, showing as part 5 in the bottom left corner of the screen and is highlighted orange, is for DSP-2008 to develop a 4,650 square foot food and beverage store and a gas station. This DSP has been approved as is currently under permanent review. The reservation number for this DSP is 2021-24. Phase 2, located in our parcel 1, consists of parts 1 to 4, highlighted in pink color for 250 to 270 townhouse units. Areas for environmental features highlighted in green, and stormwater management area highlighted in marine blue. A portion of the land will be dedicated to a proposed master plan collector road, which is C605. The site plan also shows that each residential part will have a potential outdoor recreational site. Next slide, please. So the submitted CSP also shows the schematic layout of the proposed private streets and C605. Through them, residential units in phase 2 will have access to Marlboro Pike and MD223. As a result, the property will have a total of 2 access points from MD223 and 1 access point from Marlboro Pike. This CSP showing in front of you also show the proximity location of the various landscape buffers, which will be further analyzed at the time of the detailed site plan review. Next slide, please. This slide demonstrates the Type 1 Tree Conservation Plan TCP1-015-2019-02 submitted with this CSP application. An analysis of step finding on the TCP1 can be found on page 22 of the technical step report. 4 impacts are proposed to the primary management areas with step analysis on pages 29 to 30. In addition, the applicants request a variance to remove 13 specimen trees on site. An analysis of the step findings on the requested variance can be found on pages 25 to page 28 of the technical step report. Staff recommended the planning board approve the requested variance for the removal of the 13 specimen trees, as well as approve the TCP1 subject to condition 1H on page 33 of the technical step report. Next slide, please. This slide showing the ultimate C605 right-of-way throughout the subject property. The proposed C605 alignment, the segment highlighted in green, is different from the existing master plan collect road alignment shown in the 2009 approved county-wide master plans of transportation, which is highlighted in gray color. The proposed alignment was moved to minimize the environmental impact to resources, and the transportation plan section was in agreement with the change. Analysis of the steps finding on these new alignments can be found on pages 23 and page 26 of technical step report, which should be approved in this CSP. Next slide, please. As mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, 3 inquiries from the community were received regarding these applications. On September 26, 2023, Ms. Ellen Karen contacted staff and raised concerns about overdevelopment of the areas and lack of infrastructure to support the proposed development. On October 9th of this year, Ms. Ellen sent another email with specific comments about the adequacy and the safety of roads in the vicinity of the proposed development. Staff also received another email from Ms. Isaac Forward stating his opposition to the development because he will significantly and negatively impact the southeast quadrant of the intersection of MD223 and Marlboro Pike. This CSP provides a preliminary schematic plan for the development of subject site per the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations, a detailed analysis of infrastructure impacts such as, but not limited to, transportation, including pedestrian, bicycle, and traffic, public safety responses, times, environmental impacts, and park facilities will take place at the time of the preliminary plan of subdivisions. With respects transportation infrastructure, specifically in approving this CSP, the planning board is required to find that transportation facilities they are existing, under construction, or fully funded are adequate to carry the anticipated traffic for the proposed development. This finding is analyzed on pages 13 to page 18 of the step technical report based on a traffic impact analysis submitted by the applicant. Based on that analysis, staff is recommending condition 3 on page 34 of the technical step report, which will require the applicants to make several road improvements to support the development. Further analysis of the transportation adequacy will occur through the certificate of adequacy, which is required to be obtained at the time of the preliminary plan of subdivision. At that time, the road improvements required listed in the staff recommended condition 3 may be further refined. The community is encouraged to be engaged in the process by becoming the person of record, submitting their information to citizen registries, and participate in the public hearing for all future entitlement applications. To sum up this presentation, staff recommended that the planning board adopt the finding of this report and approve the conceptual site plan CSP-1A007-101 Type 1 Tree Conservation Plan TCP1-015-2019-02 and variance from Section 25-119D for the removal of certain specimen trees, subject to the recommended condition of approval within the technical staff report and the revised condition provided by the applicants and agreed upon by the staff in Applicant's Exhibit 1. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huang. And I also especially appreciate you going into a bit more detail around the process related to transportation analysis and the different steps that are taken related to adequacy. So thank you for that. Questions for staff, commissioners, before I turn to Mr. Tedesco? Seeing none. Mr. Tedesco, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, hear you fine, thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you. Again, good morning to the chairman and members of the planning board, all commissioners, staff, and all those in attendance. For the record, my name is Matthew Tedesco with the law firm of McNamee Hosey here in Greenbelt. On behalf of the applicant CBR Woodyard LLC, represented here today by Mr. Ed Gold and Richard Gold. They are the contract purchasers of the subject property. In addition, we have our civil engineer land planning team, Phil Hughes and Amy Somer from Charles P. Johnson and Associates, and our traffic engineer, Mr. Mike Lenhart from Lenhart Traffic and Consulting. It goes without saying, obviously, I want to thank Mr. Hung and all the staff for its review of this application. Preliminarily, we did submit an Exhibit 1, which has very minor revisions, kind of clerical type revisions to certain findings. And then some cleanup items with respect to the recommended conditions of approval. Fairly minor in nature. Staff has indicated its support of those revisions, and we thank them for their support for not only their recommendations, but as modified in applicant's Exhibit 1. As Mr. Hang indicated, this property already has a fairly lengthy entitlement history. I don't need to belabor it. I do just want to highlight for the benefit of citizens that may be listening in or attending this hearing this morning. The conceptual site plan for this project was originally approved in 2020. It was proposed by the owner, which is the Antioch Baptist Church. It included a handful of different types of use designations: commercial retail, office, hotel, assisted living, a church, residential attached product, etc. The project moved forward as it relates to the preliminary plan, primarily for a commercial component, which has since been approved as a rural farms facility that has received not only subdivision, record plat, and detailed site plan approval, but is in the permitting process. That is at the northwest corner of the project at the intersection of Marlboro Pike existing and Maryland 223. As Mr. Hung in the staff report indicated, that's referred to as Phase 1 in your staff report. Phase 2, and as identified in the preliminary plan of subdivision that was previously approved for this property by the planning board, reference basically everything else, which is what we're here to talk about today, which is about approximately 37 acres of the remaining we identified as out parcel on the original preliminary plan. As contemplated originally, the church, and we provided in our staff, in our justification statement, the church has, for various reasons, determined that it's in its best interest to sell the property, continue to perform its duties for its congregation at its existing location on Marble Pike. And so they have made the decision to sell out parcel 1 to my client, the applicant in this case, in order to facilitate a development scheme that is not only consistent with the adjacent development, but also the prior MXT zone and the emerging Westphalia area in the immediate surrounding areas. So that's what we have before you. This is one of 3 cases that we will bring before you in the coming months to years, the CSP amendment being the first one today, ultimately a new preliminary plan of subdivision for the residual piece, and then a detailed site plan in the future. At the heart of this application is to amend the original CSP primarily to remove the previously approved church, assisted living, hotel, and other additional commercial retail, and to expand upon the previously approved residential attached to increase that to 250 to 270. The final and ultimate number will obviously be further narrowed and defined with the preliminary plan and then ultimately the detailed site plan. But as you all know, section 27547D footnote 7 requires that the ceiling, so to speak, for MXT projects residential, the type and amount be determined with the CSP. So we can't go any higher than 250 or 270 for that matter. We can't go any higher than 270, let me be correct. But we may go down once we get into more detailed engineering and site detailing. I just wanted to note that for the benefit of the community. We do agree with staff's findings with respect as modified by applicant's exhibit 1. And I think in particular, I want to just highlight the technical staff report at pages 11 through 18, as well as our justification statement at pages 11 through 12, as it relates to the purposes of the plan as well as the zone. Staff and both the applicant went through extensive analysis of that, and I think that's important just to highlight. We do believe that this project, as previously approved and as amended and being advanced at this point, does provide orderly development of land in the vicinity of a major intersection, major interchanges. And those interchanges include Maryland 4, Maryland 223, which is just to the north of this shot that you see before you, and then the intersection of existing Marble Pike and Maryland 223, and then the future Marble Pike relocated, which is C605, which was shown on another slide. To the immediate west of this property is property in the former RT zone, now RSFA, which is the Norborn project, which are the townhomes on the southwest quadrant of the intersection of existing Marble Pike. In the northwest quadrant is the Cardoza project, which is in various states of approval and entitlement. That property was formerly in the MXT zone and now in the CGO zone. To the north, on the north side of Marble Pike on the screen, is property that's in the LCD zone, formerly LAC zone. And then you've got this property on the southeast quadrant, which is in the MXT zone. If we could go to slide 4, I believe it is, that might be helpful. Slide 4 is the zoning maps, and you can see all 4 corners of this intersection of Marble Pike existing in 223 Woodyard Road is representative of some of the higher density zones in the county, being MXT on 2 corners, a comprehensive design zone on the northeast, and then the RT zone on the southwest. So in keeping with that, this project, I know you may hear that there's an overdevelopment, but the development that's proposed is 100% consistent with the general plan and the master plan visions, goals, and policies for this area, being at the proximity of a major interchange and an intersection that includes arterial roadways and freeways. This project will enhance the economic status of the county. It expands desirable living opportunities and facilitates housing opportunities at a time where housing is at a premium. Vis-a-vis, we all know we are living through and going through a housing shortage in the county. We did speak to that in our justification statement on page 4 in referencing the 2019 housing strategy for all, which identified the need for more housing for the missing middle. There is no doubt that the legacy of zoning laws has spurred zoning reform in many cities and states. There is a growing consensus that large lot single family zoning erects creates economic barriers that prevent many people from accessing schools, employment, and services of higher wealth. Social stability and diversity are supported by housing choices that allow people to age in place and trade down or up without moving out of the jurisdiction. Compact urbanism supports local businesses and offers housing options for the missing middle. Similar to the developments to the west and proposed developments to the north, this project, Hope Village Phase 2, will offer quality townhome units close to emerging commercial retail development and major intersection and transportation routes. Turning to, I think, some of the other concerns that you'll hear today, and we have heard in our community outreach, deals with the traffic. I would highlight Mr. Hung's comments in your staff report at pages 14 through 18 as it relates to traffic. And I think to highlight a point there, and again, Mr. Hung hit on this, but it should be noted, and I'm reading from your staff report, it should be noted that this site will need to go through a preliminary plan and subdivision process. Transportation advocacy will be further reviewed at that time. The traffic impact analysis has utilized a reasonable mix of uses, which will be further tested at the time of preliminary plan of subdivision with adequacy tests based on the actual mix of uses at that time. Nevertheless, as required by the prior zoning ordinance, we did, and your staff conducted, a traffic impact analysis as it relates to this project. On pages 17 of your staff report, it goes through total traffic conditions in all tested intersections past the APFO testing for the county. And I would highlight the importance of that in the sense that the total traffic conditions assumes the complete build out at Westphalia Town Center, which, as we all know, is not occurred yet. But assuming that does occur, that's what's been taken into account among other approved undeveloped projects in the area that are part of the background. So with background and with existing conditions, as well as the proposal in this application, all tested intersections pass the APFO testing. And I'm going to wrap up soon, Mr. Chair. As it relates to community outreach, because I do want to make sure that part of my job is not only to present this case, but also to create a record here today. We did have significant community outreach with the assistance of G.S. Proctor & Associates. I too spoke with various residents in the area who reached out in response to either the sign posting or the letters that were sent out for informational mailing and the acceptance. We had contact with Antioch Baptist Church and its congregation, Norburn Park, Belmont Crest, Melwood Springs, the villages of Melwood, and we did reach out numerous times to Windsor Park, Mr. Washington, and we remain available to continue those dialogues with all those communities in the area, as well as any members of Windsor Park that would like to meet with us. We have not had any formal meetings with any members of Windsor Park, although we have reached out to Mr. Washington on a number of occasions. Finally, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I do have some concerns, and I don't know if it's appropriate to raise them now or after Ms. Allen testifies. I could do either, but I do have concerns, and I will have to object to the photographs, at least the vast majority of the photographs, and I can go through them, that Ms. Allen put into the record before the deadline on Tuesday, as they do not accurately or fairly depict the conditions out on the property. It mislabels, the vast majority of them mislabel the subject property, or mislabeled property identified in those images as Hope Village. And so I will be objecting to those being in the record in the sense that they are not accurate as it relates to the subject property. So with that, I would reserve any additional comments to respond to any opposition comments and or answer any questions that the board may have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Tedesco. Clearly, you'll have the opportunity for rebuttal and close. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant or members of his team?
I have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Tedesco, Commissioner Giraldo, what do you define the middle income housing?
Did you repeat that? You broke up, Commissioner Giraldo.
How do you define middle housing?
Well, under the 2019 housing strategy, the missing middle is basically what the county lacks. The vast majority of housing in the county is single family detached. So the missing middle could be made up of attached product or multifamily product is how that purport and plan basically defines it, as well as to provide housing opportunities for people to age in place. There's been economic studies that have been done that there's a significant migration, particularly of 18 to 25-year-olds in the county, for lack of opportunity for home ownership. And so in our view, as we apply and interpret the housing strategy plan, the missing middle is to capture, and retain that group. And the best way to do that is having product that is more compact in design and affordable.
Okay, so the affordable is a good one, but what's the proposed sale prices of these townhomes?
We don't have a builder yet, so I couldn't answer that question.
And if I can, Commissioner Giraldo, I think this is at least how I interpreted this. When Mr. Tedesco was referring to missing middle, it was more a housing type than an income level.
Right, I was just worried about when he said more affordable. That's all. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just to be clear for the record, I'm not suggesting this is an affordable project. It'll be a market rate project, but affordability has to do with supply and demand. So that's a component of facilitating housing and obviating the housing crisis that we're currently facing.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I will turn to, I'm sorry. No? All right, I'll turn to Ms. Allen. I believe we only have Ms. Allen signed up to speak. Ms. Allen, I don't know how much time you need. I'm going to put 10 minutes on the clock. You can take up to that. You don't need to take all that, but just as a way for me to benchmark the process that we have, okay?
Okay, fine. Yes. Good morning to all. And for the record, my name is Karen Allen. I am a resident of Windsor Park, and I'm also a business owner who resides off of Marlboro Pike. And I'll be interested in hearing more about how the pictures are not accurate. But for the most part, this is an overly developed area. That intersection remains to be a very dangerous intersection. I've lived in this community for 18 years, and in talking with my neighbors, the neighbors in both Belmont Crest, Norburn, and Melwood Springs, we all have some of the same concerns. I'm very surprised that we don't have representation today from the HOAs of those communities. But nevertheless, I'm here to voice my opposition to the build out of Hope Village. The infrastructure does not support the existing communities, let alone the new development that is being proposed. And with the Royal Farms that's targeted on the corner of 223 and Woodyard Road and Osborne, there's also concerns about potential increase of crime, because there was a newly developed Royal Farms in a neighboring community near here, and the crime rate increased exponentially. And so we have some of those same concerns for the Royal Farms that's being proposed here. So all of these things, all of these things that are being developed in this small, relatively small parcel of land is of greatest concern to all of us here. And so, again, just to be clear, it's the overdevelopment, it's the lack of infrastructure, it's the potential for increased crime. And as the gentleman just questioned the statement about the missing middle housing, I too was wondering what that actually meant. And in reference to 18 to 25-year-olds, I wonder how many 18 to 25-year-olds are seeking to purchase homes. The homes in this community, Windsor Park, Belmont Crest, Norburn, all of them are relatively around $600,000 plus. So I don't know if the reference is to affordable housing, whatever that is, or targeting a particular age group. There's also a senior living nearby Marwood, where people are trying to age in place, and they are very, very concerned about the development of this property. I don't know if you have any questions for me. I don't want to be redundant in what I'm saying, so I'll pause here.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate your testimony. We will, Commissioners, there's no questions for Ms. Allen at this time. There's no one else who signed up to speak, so we can turn to Mr. Tedesco for rebuttal and close. Mr. Tedesco, let me just say one thing. Ms. Allen's pictures, I feel free to enter any evidence you want on the record to contradict your assessment of the pictures, but we certainly are not going to be arguing with whether Ms. Allen's pictures are going to be part of the record. So they are in the record, and anything you want to do to provide evidence to say that they're not the subject property, that's up to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I understand, and again, just in the necessity to ensure we create a record here is predominantly why I raised the issue, and I'm happy to go through them, and whether they're in the record or not, I do take issue with them as far as and again, this is a quasi-judicial hearing. Witnesses are sworn. Although the rules of evidence are lax, I would just note that photograph 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, and to some extent 16. They all identify the Hope Village property as the Cardoza property. So they've incorrectly identified the subject property that's the subject of this hearing today. All those photographs that I went through and numbered have been manipulated by providing notations on them with property descriptions and other types of descriptions that don't correctly identify this property. They are identifying the Cardoza property, which is at the northwest quadrant and on the northwest quadrant of Marble Pike in Maryland 223. So for that reason alone, they're unreliable. So we would object to that. Nevertheless, I welcome and respect Ms. Allen's comments as a resident of the community for 18 years. I grew up in this area. I know this intersection extremely well. I know this area extremely well, and I respect and understand that things have changed considerably since the Windsor Park community was developed to include Belmont Crest, to include Westphalia Town Center, to include Norburn. I understand that. That being said, the characterization of overdevelopment in this area is not consistent with your planning tools and guidelines that have been adopted by the county as it relates to the general plan and as it relates to the 2006 subregion master plan, as well as the Westphalia Town Center sector plan. This area at the intersection of a freeway and an arterial roadway, being Maryland 4 and 223 respectively, is planned and programmed for development. Development consistent with the MXT zone, with the comprehensive design zone being the LAC zone and the RT zone. Currently under those, the prior zoning, currently the new zoning being CGO, LCD, RSFA, and RSF 48. So in addition to that, as far as the comment with respect to, so with respect to overdevelopment, I do want to just note that the MXT zone allows for 1.4 FAR. This proposal is at 0.37, significantly below the maximum allowed under the MXT zone. Moreover, we have environmental features that are being preserved to the fullest extent practical throughout the site. And if you go to slide, your indulgence, if you go to slide 10 of 14, you'll see how the area, this property is bisected with environmental features that are being preserved. And the impacts are limited to the master plan and transportation C605, predominantly limited to the C605 alignment as far as the environmental impacts. Just in response to the lack of infrastructure, the interchange and intersection improvements at Maryland 4 and 223 on the south side of Maryland 4, as well as on the north side of Maryland 4, are being realized. Those intersections have been improved to include Marble Pike. We are required to continue to do traffic impact analysis. Staff has made recommendations with additional road improvements, intersection improvements with turn lanes, et cetera. So it's not correct to say that the infrastructure is not in place. There actually is infrastructure that's in place. And if you look at the traffic impact study that's been done just on this project as it relates to the CSP, the intersection of Maryland 223 and Old Marble Pike under total traffic conditions operates at a level of service A in the AM and PM. Maryland 223 and Marble Pike is a level of service B and D, B in the AM, D in the PM. And given this location, D is a passing grade as it relates to APFO. And I would just note that that's still premised upon the town center Westphalia at a full build out. So there actually is infrastructure in place to support this project, to support all the existing projects in the area. Regarding the comment about the 18 to 25, I mean, I didn't offer that to say that's a target range of owners. I offer that in response to a question I got about the missing middle. And to have a strong economy within Prince George's County, we can't afford to lose those types of residents in that age bracket. I'm not suggesting that that's the age bracket of homeowners, but that is the group that are leaving, young professionals leaving the county. And in order to have sustainability from an economic standpoint, I was simply responding to Mr. Geraldo's question with respect to the missing middle. We have to retain those folks. And the only way to retain folks in the county is to provide housing and better housing options, which this project will do. We envision this project to be similar and mirror the Norborn project directly across the street, which is, very high-end single-family attached product built by NBR. We do not yet have a builder contracted for this project. But we expect and we know that this planning board will require and demand, high-end, good-looking architecture, well-amenitized projects with, safety and lighting and landscaping and all those things that we do on these projects. We look forward to that opportunity, and I have no doubt that the staff and the board and hopefully the community will be satisfied at that time when we get to the detailed site plan. And I'm just going to conclude by saying this because we have had a number of conversations with surrounding communities. And I want to note for the record that the Belmont Crest community, if we could go to the aerial slide, just so I can orient the board real quick. Thank you. So the Belmont Crest community is to the left of the existing townhomes on the screen. You'll see that Marble Pike Relocated is dedicated and built throughout the Norborn project, which is the townhome project, up through Belmont Crest. There is currently dividers that prevent through traffic along that portion of Marble Pike. The Belmont Crest community has indicated to us, and again, this is more for the record than for anything else, but have indicated their concern about those barriers being removed and through traffic coming through there. This project has and will continue to be tested for adequacy, assuming those barriers stay in place. In other words, the removal of those barriers will not be facilitated because of this project. We further understand that because that's a public right-of-way, that's solely up to the discretion of DPI as far as those barriers. But we understand that there's been arrangements in place that those barriers will not be removed until and unless Marble Pike extends all the way to the east to William Beans Road, which requires more dedication that doesn't exist today. So we don't anticipate or think that this project will have any impact on the existing barriers that are there. The adequacy testing will be done as if those barriers remain in place. And so from that perspective, we just wanted to note for the record, because it may be important as this case moves forward, to know that this project has no bearing from our perspective on those existing barriers along that right of way. With that, Mr. Chairman, I think I'm finished. We would respectfully request your approval with staff's recommended findings and conditions as modified by applicant's Exhibit 1.
Thank you, Mr. Tedesco. Commissioners, we've heard rebuttal and close from the applicant. I'm going to close the public hearing portion of this. It's up to us for deliberation and potential action. And I would just say, first of all, for Ms. Allen, I hear her concerns loud and clear. And Ms. Allen, you should know that regardless of what action we take today, this is a work in progress. And much of the issues related to transportation adequacy are going to be taken up at the preliminary plan of subdivision based on what we do today. And then, of course, there's detailed site plans. So by no means is this going away for you. And Mr. Tedesco, I appreciate the thoroughness of your answers. And commissioners, any other deliberation, I'll leave it to you all. Where are you with this?
Okay.
Anything? Okay, if not, I look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion, but I also wanted to thank Mr. Allen and Miss Allen, and I associate myself with your comments and just to reiterate what the chairman said, that we're at the very early stages of this process. So please stay involved and engaged. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and the findings as further modified by applicant Exhibit number 1 and approve CSP-18007-01 and TCP1-015-2019-02 and variances from section 25-119D along with the conditions as outlined in staff's report and as further modified by applicant Exhibit number 1.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Washington?
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey?
I vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo?
I vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner?
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Ms. Allen. Thank you, Mr. Huang, for this. Thank you, Mr. Tedesco. Mr. Hunt, any further business to come before the planning board today? You're on mute. Okay, we're okay. We'll take that thumbs up. Commissioners, without objection, we are adjourned. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Thank you.
And stay safe out there. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Be safe.
You as well, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.